staff on the specific deployment
I'm
of US
sorry,
forces.
Mr. Smith. It's the Department of Defense. Until Congress changes the name of the department or the agencies, it remains the Department of Defense. I don't care whatever imaginary, illusionary thoughts that some of my colleagues may have. It's the law.
A tense House hearing erupted after Representative Jim Costa sharply corrected a Trump administration official for referring to the Pentagon as the Department of War. The exchange instantly became one of the most talked about moments of the session.
California, Mr. Costa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I'm pleased that we're having this hearing today. I hope that we will have more focusing on not only the Baltic states, but Ukraine. It's long overdue, and it's appropriate and fitting that we focus our attention, because I think the Baltic states are model allies. I'm not sure the administration always reflects it that way. Supporting the Baltic states means supporting, I think, Ukraine, and I think your comments so far this morning confirms that, if I hear you clearly, Mr. Smith. And I want to thank you. The first time we met, I think I was at a Yalta economic security meeting back in Kiev, and I want to thank you for your service to our country. My colleagues, I think, are talking about the observations that we need to have this hearing. It's pleasing to see all of the ambassadors from the Baltic states here this morning. You're representing your countries, and you're representing the best interests of democratic nations across the country, across the world, excuse me. I'm sometimes misguided or can't understand what the administration's thinking in terms of our transatlantic partnership. Russia, I would think, Mr. Smith, you would agree, is our adversary, correct?
Russia is certainly the principal challenge that we face in Europe.
And so I want to repeat remarks that were made by Secretary of Defense, it's Defense, by the way, Hegseth, on December 6 in 2025, when he said, model allies that step up like Israel, South Korea, Poland, increasingly Germany and the Baltics and others will receive our special favor, end quotes. You've reiterated that today, I think. 5% of their GDP, of course, is now dedicated to the defense. They've provided over, I think, 13 to 15% of funding for Ukraine, and the Baltics are punching above their weight. But the administration has recently indicated that they're indefinitely delaying shipments, weapon shipments to the Baltic states. Can you explain to me, Mr. Smith, why these delays are consistent, why Secretary Hegseth's commitment to provide model allies like the Baltics, this administration's special favor?
We are continuing to provide and deliver on munitions contracted by these critical allies. In some cases, there are certain munitions, ammunition and certain munitions that we are unable to provide.
Could you provide the committee with an update in terms of where we are in that commitment and potential shipments? I know obviously this war in Iran has probably had an impact. Can you confirm that these contracts are just delayed, or are you aware that these contracts are being canceled?
I would have to defer to the Pentagon on the specifics of each contract. We have
Mr. Smith, I understand that. They may refer to the Pentagon. Mr. Chairman, I think we need to find out from the Pentagon whether they're delayed or whether they're canceled. Do you think troops that are supposed to be moved out of Germany, if that's still the case, would be placed in Romania or Poland or somewhere else in the eastern flank?
I would defer to the Department of War and the Joint Staff on the specific deployment.
I'm sorry, Mr. Smith. It's the Department of Defense. Until Congress changes the name of the department or the agencies, it remains the Department of Defense. I don't care whatever imaginary, illusionary thoughts that some of my colleagues may have. It's the law. Is a weakened Russia in the U.S. national interest, and how would Ukraine victory against Russia invasion impact Putin's thinking toward the Baltics?
We view the security contingencies created by the war as being a major threat to European security. It's why we have dedicated our efforts to negotiating a solution, an end to this war, a comprehensive and lasting settlement.
And while NATO certainly is, and I think I'll give the administration some credit, I think there's a direct movement, Germany 5% to defense spending. I think we see a whole change that's been actually pursued by not only this administration, but previous administrations. In that vein, NATO, I think, is responsible for largely the longest peacetime period in Europe post-World War II in 1,000 years. Would you not agree?
I would agree.
Finally, the Baltic Security Initiative. Can you outline specific activities in the $200 million appropriated under fiscal year 26 being used to fund and how it contributes to Baltic security and our own security?
Over many years, the Baltic Security Initiative has helped these allies field new capabilities. It's also persuaded them to choose U.S. capabilities as enduring sources for their military over and for the future.
And my time's expired, but I do believe that Europe is realizing not only the need to make their commitment for their own defense, but build capacity, as we have to look at our own capacity to increase for our needs for our defense. Would you not agree?
Very true, sir.
Thank you.
I now recognize the representative.
This hearing was supposed to focus on Baltic security, NATO commitments, and the ongoing threat posed by Russia, but one unexpected exchange quickly stole the spotlight. Representative Jim Costa interrupted testimony after a Trump administration official repeatedly referred to the Pentagon as the Department of War instead of the Department of Defense. Costa's correction immediately changed the tone of the hearing and highlighted growing tensions over the administration's rhetoric surrounding military policy. Costa's reaction reflected a broader concern among lawmakers about how language shapes America's role on the global stage. By insisting that it remains the Department of Defense until Congress changes the name, Costa framed the issue as more than semantics. To him, the wording carried symbolic weight about whether the United States views itself as primarily defensive or increasingly aggressive in foreign policy. The hearing also centered heavily on support for NATO allies and the Baltic states. Costa praised Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania as model allies for dramatically increasing defense spending and providing significant aid to Ukraine. He questioned whether the administration's delays in weapons shipments to the Baltics contradicted earlier promises to strongly support nations standing against Russian aggression. Another major focus was the administration's broader strategy toward Russia and Ukraine. Costa repeatedly emphasized that Russia remains a direct adversary and argued that supporting Ukraine is essential not just for Eastern Europe, but for global stability. He warned that weakening commitments to NATO or delaying military support could embolden Vladimir Putin and create greater risks for the Baltic region. By the end of the exchange, Costa's correction about the Department of Defense had become the defining viral moment because it captured a deeper political divide over military priorities, global alliances, and America's identity on the world stage. Supporters viewed his comments as defending democratic norms and international cooperation, while critics may see it as symbolic political theater. Either way, the confrontation guaranteed attention far beyond the hearing room.